documentation that we've received, I think 3 or 4, which has little substance actually in them. But there is a matter that I thought I would personally want to reflect on, and I don't know whether the chair will allow me, or either now or later, with regards to certain developments that have occurred during the intervening period, with specific reference to the decision by SABC to challenge the court on the matter that we actually had dealt with in their presence here. So if you would allow me either now or later, that I want to make a reflection on the matter.
As long as it's not opening up a new debate and a big debate, I'll allow you to do that. And everybody else will speak on it if they need to speak on it.
Okay.
No? Oh, so you want to deal with the first issue first and come back to it? I thought it's fine. Let's deal with the first issue first, and then if there's any other business. Okay. On the first recommendation then, Chair.
Recommendation, Chair, I fully support your proposal because, like I said, we only have received three or four correspondence. A few issues that we may want to look at, but I think others are very generic and not so substantive, and therefore the proposal that you're making, that there is a likelihood that we may have quite a response from a few entities, including SABC, because indeed, you remember, in our last meeting, we actually had said they should be given an opportunity. They can make a written submission, and I can see that there are those people who've made submissions also disputing certain things that were raised in our meeting. I guess with the time that you're talking about, we may want to consider it in the light of what you are saying. I'm fine with that arrangement.
Right. We're limiting it just to the proposal that we reconvene on Monday. Honourable Waters, and followed by Honourable Singh.
Chair, thank you. I've got a question of clarity before I make a comment. My understanding was we were giving everyone 2 weeks to respond to the report. May I ask when the report was sent to everybody, and what deadline were they given to respond by? Please, thank you.
All right. The draft report, as we called it, was sent out on the 13th. It was sent out on the 27th to the SABC, and on the 30th to most other members. In other words, we started sending them out round about the 27th. Okay, but there were many people, and we had given everybody up to the 16th of February by which to respond. And that was 10 working days or something like that. Those were the time frames. So from the 27th, they didn't all get out on the 27th. Some went out on the 27th, some went out the day later. But the 27th was the start. SABC certainly got theirs on the 27th, and the 16th is the closing date. If that answers your question, sir.
I mean, the SABC is getting 15 days to reply then, working days. But anyway, be it as it may. Well, if that's the case, Chair, I don't know why we're sitting today then. You know, if the deadline was the 16th, this is a premature meeting. I mean, I don't know why we are.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I may answer the question, not on behalf of the committee, but myself, the question from Honourable Waters, my understanding was that we'll just feel our way. We'll just try and assess where we are before the 16th to see how voluminous the responses are and how substantive the responses are. And I think that was the idea. I don't think the idea in my own mind was that we deal with those responses in any form whatsoever today. But having said that, Chairperson, I think it's important for us today to decide on a process of how are we going to deal with these responses. How substantive are they in terms of fact? And before we meet next week on Tuesday, we need to get our research department to start looking at this, to pull out records, whether they be recordings or affidavits or whatever that we received during the course of the hearing, so that we don't come here next week Tuesday and say, well, this is what we received, now what do we do with it? So that kind of work must be done between the 16th and when we get back here. So I'm going to suggest that we do that so we don't waste time, so that we can actually understand what impact any of these submissions are going to have on the content of our draft report. And I think that's going to be important. But having said that, Chair, there is a document here which was circulated, processing of the ad hoc committee on the SABC board's interim report and responses to it. It's not marked, but it just gives us the names of the people that sent us submissions. And then we are asked to do a few things. For example, the committee should consider whether the responses received require amendments. The committee write to the SABC requesting that the SABC Foxton contract be provided by the end of business on 14th Feb. And there's another one, the committee wrote already, it would seem, to the PCC requesting any information. Now, I don't know if these decisions have been taken by the committee, because we will have to ratify these decisions today so that they can be actioned. Thank you, Chair. But I have no problem with us meeting, but meeting on serious business from next week, Tuesday.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just at the outset, we also, from our side, also support the proposal that it doesn't help to start engaging now because we haven't received all the submissions and responses. But I just want to alert us to the fact that we still obviously need to do the recommendations that will take a long time.
That came through. You have already started to process them correctly. So if we can continue doing that, come next week, we can then have a document that speaks of, in fact, we'll have copies and a document, in fact, that speaks of the content of those submissions. So it will make a lot of sense. And I think that I want to agree that we may not even want to proceed further. But it was a good thing to have this engagement, Chair, that time and time we'll have to reflect on a number of things, you know, as we move forward. There's nothing wrong that we cannot meet, and you know, there's no reason to meet. And, you know, always there's a reason, because we are dealing with a problem that is so deep there. I think you'll hear that as we engage further, maybe on the point that is raised by Mahlangu, that we'll hear what are the issues there. But I think it's important that time and time, sometimes we can meet 12 o'clock at night. It's emergency, you have to do that. Members must just be ready to help work together and resolve the problems that are confronting SABC. So on that note, Chair, I want to support that. And I think in that spirit again, let's continue doing the beautiful work that we are doing for our country.
Honorable Khoza?
Chair, arising out of the discussions that we have now, which I mean highlight the need for this particular meeting, it's very clear to me that we may need additional primary resources, and especially where there has been a dispute on material fact. Right now, that SABC Foxton contract, we have to get the actual contract, and probably the chair must be given a mandate by this committee to use whatever means, so that when we come next week, we have that information. Another one, Chair, I know we've labored on this point previously, but I do think that it's going to be absolutely critical that we get a legal opinion on the status of the MOI. And I'm saying that, Chair, because that MOI appears to be in force, and it seems to be implemented as we speak. And we need to have something that is concrete on that score, especially from our legal team. And I think it relates to the points that probably Mahlangu wanted to raise, Chair, and I think it's going to be very important that we get a definite response on that, because the way we are going to be formulating the recommendations will have to pronounce itself very clearly on the status of the MOI, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Waters?
Chair, just considering what's been said and given the timeframes, and I think we're going to be under a lot more pressure than we think, actually. We are scheduled to sit on Friday. Is there any reason why we can't sit on Friday? I mean, I think it's scheduled. We've been given notice of it, and we could start dealing with the submissions that we got last week and the week before, you know, to save time. I hear what Honourable Killian's saying. Killian, sorry, I think it's Sandy. But I do think the recommendations are going to take a lot longer than what we anticipate. I think we're going to have differences of opinion when we get to them. So I do think we need to have, if I may speak, Chair, thank you very much. So I do think we need to set aside ample time for the recommendations. Thank you.
All right, let me try and summarize. Members seem to be suggesting that meeting scheduled for Wednesday be canned. The first proposal was that we start on Tuesday, and the understanding was that the 16th is Thursday, and people have until 5 o'clock. We still have to do the collating, putting together, doing the research kind of thing that Singh was talking about, so that we have a meaningful discussion on Monday, on Tuesday or stroke Monday. That was the rationale. Comrade Waters is suggesting, Honorable Waters, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, sir. I beg your pardon. Yeah. Honorable Waters is suggesting that we should consider using Friday for the 3 or 4 that we have, because there's already been some work done on those 3 or 4. That's the suggestion that Honorable Waters is, or the amendment that he's making to the proposal. Now I'm looking at Singh, who suggested the process. That's why I'm looking at you, sir, because it conflicts basically on those two. And I'm looking at Cindy, because Cindy, I want to remind members again, let us be humane. If we get a document at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I don't know what the deadline is, somebody needs to work after hours for us to be ready at 8 the next morning. So I'm saying in all our proposals, let us just be humane on that one, because we're not even sure in what format those responses will come. But I am open to any proposal. So I'm hoping that then, I don't want to open up for a reprocess, because remember Singh had said we must also discuss the process. Let me just discuss this process and we go on. Honorable Singh, you would see, and I think it was Waters or somebody, we'd already started doing what you were saying. Might not be in detail, but we had started in receiving responses, trying to uplift what was important for members to decide whether they want to incorporate that in the report. So we had started that process. The only thing we hadn't done was the legal part of it. In terms of the other 2 points that you raised, I'm not sure if Honorable Khoza covered it, but basically, in his response, Mr. Foxton wrote back to us saying to us he wants to correct the rand value. We wrote to him and said to him, please give us the contract, because at least we're working on a concrete document. He then responded by saying that contract we should request from SABC. We've written to SABC to request it. So that is the letter we're talking about, and we're hoping that you will condone it. It was all in the process of ensuring that we do real work as opposed to thinking. So that's the Foxton matter, Honorable Swartz. The other one you raised was to the PC. In the response that we received from Mr. Mateza, or in correspondence with Mr. Mateza, he raised an issue about the funding of these legal challenges that take place, and indicated that as his understanding, there is some insurance policy that addresses this matter. So we've written to the portfolio committee saying, this is hearsay, for want of a better word, and I say it with all the respect, can the portfolio committee confirm it, so that when we deal with this matter, that partly what you were raising, Honorable Mahlangu, that we have some documents. So that was really the letter, asking the portfolio committee if they are aware of any policy that talks to funding of litigation costs. That was what the letter was basically. Is there any policy in place? Because it has a material impact on our own recommendations that talk to people that must pay out of their pocket. And we are hoping if it needs to be formally ratified, then you can either ratify them. But those two letters have in fact gone out. One asking is there a policy on to cover costs. The second one was to the SABC asking them to, by the end of today, I think, submit the contract of Foxton so that when we talk to that matter, we have a formal contract in front of us. I'm hoping that that was not overstepping the mark, Honorable Singh. Those are the two letters those are the two letters that we wrote. All now that we need to talk about is how do we factor Honorable Waters' request for the need for Friday. If that still stands, Honorable Waters, the need for Friday. What do members say? Friday. Let's take Swarts and then take Chauke and then take Mokwena, and then we close this matter. Then we go to other matters and carry on. What do we do about Friday, or do we stick to the Monday proposal? So, Singh, Chauke, and Mokwena.
I thought you were referring to me, Chair, but you said SWAT. Okay, thanks. No, Chair, I still stand by my proposal because I don't believe we should meet for the sake of meeting. You know, in this document here, which I referred to, there are certain recommendations by the research team, which we have to take cognizance of, agree with or disagree with. Some you've already actioned, and we give you ex post facto approval for those actions that you've taken. Right? We've got other work to do as well. There's a finance committee meeting on Friday, Parliament Finance Committee, which Honorable Waters is on that. So I don't think here we should just meet for the sake of meeting. Let's meet when we have all the facts. We have the research team having gone through what A says and what B says, and provide evidence to us that what A said is what was said under oath during the hearing, and what B says now was not said under oath. So we can assess for ourselves who is speaking the truth, or which information is more reliable. So I would still say, let's stick. I can agree with the idea that possibly we can get permission from the presiding officers that on Tuesday afternoon, when the House is sitting, and if there's no voting, we continue working until late at night, if possible, and do the same on Wednesday. Well, Wednesday we can't, because we have to listen to the budget. Yeah, on Thursday we can. So that would be my proposal, Chair.
Chair, I want to agree with Mr. Singh, Honorable Singh, because the point that is raised by Mr. Waters, you have sort of covered the work that is before the committee. And in his input, by the way, when he started the meeting, he questioned why do we meet for the sake of, there was no reason for us to meet. But it's clear that we don't have much information. So what we need to do, Chair, is to allow this process to continue. Allow you to collect as much information as possible, those who must respond. Let's meet next week. I want to agree with what the Honorable Singh has proposed. So I think we leave it there, because we cannot, chop and change. And there's no information now. The information that is before the committee is very less, and we have explained the kind of information that is before us and the work that we have done on this information. So let's agree that we meet next week. We'll make enough time if we're to meet until late. Let it be so, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Gwen.
No, thanks, Chair. I was going to suggest that, I agree that working immediately the day after the 16th might be a bit of a problem. But can I then suggest that, depending on the amount of information that we're going to get, that we start working on that the support team start working on a working document, so that on Monday, Tuesday, whenever it is that we meet, we have a working document that we can work with. I think it might lessen the load of work and push us a little quicker towards the recommendations, which is quite an important. Thanks, John.
The final decision, therefore, is that we will resume on Tuesday morning. If we get permission from the presiding officers and the volume dictates, we could request a Monday afternoon. We would request Tuesday afternoon if there's a sitting. Same on Thursday, and we will work on Friday. Friday we have to complete because the Monday thereafter is the 27th and Tuesday is the deadline. So we're going to, in trying to satisfy all members, we're going to push for as many hours as possible and permissible. That's going to be what we're going to do starting from Monday. So for the record, there will be no meeting tomorrow as scheduled. No meeting on Friday as scheduled. We will resume on Tuesday per the schedule and on Monday if given permission. In the interim, as we receive submissions, we will try through, and I'm hoping the research support is here, they are here. We will try and out of those responses, continue doing what we are doing so that members have an indication of the issues that have been raised from those submissions, and whatever recommendations you propose the committee considers as the research team. That document will be submitted together with all the submissions at close of business on Friday, Monday? Okay, documents on Friday, because documents we'll give you as we receive them. And then Monday, you will receive this document that you referred to, Mr. Singh, the research document. So in terms of process, besides the point you raised, Honorable Swartz, we're going to ask Atikari to talk to that. In terms of process, broadly, are we comfortable with that approach, Honorable Members? If we are, that's fine. Atikari, you just want to talk to that point before we go to any other business.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Yes, as Mr. Singh alluded, the practical examination.
Off the record, my wife.
Mrs. Singh, I agree with Mr. Singh's submission earlier that the examination of the evidence is basically what this committee will be seized with. The hearing of this nature requires not beyond reasonable doubt, but on a balance of probability. So it's basically a weighing up of evidence. So as Mr. Singh says, one has to look at the evidence, and if there's corroboration, either extraneously or for example, email trails or something else that supports a certain version, then that version will obviously have preference. Where there's no corroboration, either way, then either in terms of the oral evidence or the other written or documented evidence, the committee must make an assessment as to what is the most probable or more probable version, if there are only two versions, and find a view that in the context is probably more probable. For example, where there's clear evidence that a witness has given untruthful evidence, for example, and other evidence of that witness is not corroborated but contradicts another witness's evidence, who was a witness who was clearly very credible, then that more credible witness's evidence can be preferred. So it's that kind of practical assessment of the evidence so that the committee can assess what is more probable.
Thank you. And as usual, as you go along, if there's other things that you consider, we'll always allow you to advise us, because that's your role, to advise us by the time we get there. So that is the initial view of legal, honorable members. And I'm hoping that we then close the first agenda item. Happiness? Thank you. Let's allow you then on any other business. But before we allow you, is there anybody else that wants to talk on any other business? I've noted Matlangu. Anybody? you want to scribble again? Mahlangu, Honorable Singh, Honorable Mokoena. 3. I've noted Mahlangu, Singh, and Mokoena, and after that we're going to close if it's not going to lead to debate, and then we should finish our business. Happiness? Thank you very much, Honorable Mahlangu.
No, Chair, the issue that I felt one needs to reflect on and possibly the committee to express its view on is the action, which I think it's blameworthy, taken by the SABC, whoever else took that decision at SABC, to challenge the court decision. You remember that when we dealt with the program of this committee, there were certain queries that were raised, and I think one of the members even raised some concerns in the committee, and we dealt with the matter adequately with regards to the decision of the Western Cape Court sometime late last year. Now, we then learned that the SABC took a decision to challenge that court. We are all aware that there is no board currently at the SABC, and one would naturally assume that that decision to challenge the court would have been taken by the board, and no one else would have been authorized. Now, that matter, Chair, raises very, very serious concern as to actually what is happening at the SABC, what are we dealing with in that space, and a need for us to seriously look at how we are going to respond, and perhaps when we take our decisions, really make sure that we take very serious decisions on this question, because there's a question of accountability that kicks in, which one would think would not have occurred. But earlier on, my colleague makes the point, which I was going to raise, that is it because of the MOI that is in place, which was not processed adequately? Is it the document that's allowing SABC to run amok in the manner in which they do? I mean, those are the concerns, but Chair, one would, at some point, I don't know when we could make that view and decision. You reflected on it earlier on that I think it is time that the public entities of either Parliament takes a decision, or as we enact law, we make that explicit and clear that when people take reckless decisions, then like the one that we've just referred to, that those people actually should pay out of their own pockets. Because surely we cannot allow a situation where public funds are just used as by people who are employed by state recklessly. Also taking into account that as we're going through this process, the officials of SABC have been part of this meeting. They know the heartbeat of this committee about a range of things. But if they go out of here and do exactly the things that we are reflecting to, I mean, these things have been very topical. Parliament has taken a view. We have made a reflection. Actually, the country has made its reflection on the matter. And they go out and do exactly the things that we are trying to bring to an end. It actually tells us a bigger story. And my view, Chair, is that I think there are a few decisions we may want to take. But if indeed the MOU is the one that's creating problems, perhaps we may need to find a way of getting a declaratory order on the legality of that document. But like I said, I think it is time that people pay out of their pockets. I think those are the issues that I felt I would like to place on record in this discussion.
Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to follow in the same vein as Honorable Senator Mahlangu. We sat in this building in 1994 in the Senate. But before I do that, I think there's one item which we don't have a direct say or influence on, but it is of interest to us as this ad hoc committee, and that is the appointment or the process for the appointment of the interim board. And I think we need to be apprised of how far has that process gone. because it does to some extent influence what we are going to be saying or doing when our recommendations come. I know I raised this matter at the Chief Whip's Forum last week, no, the week before, where I said I didn't think that the Chief Whip's Forum had anything to do. We had no locus standi on the appointment of the members or recommendation, and it was agreed that that will be the case. It's referred back to the Communications Committee. So that's the one matter I think that we need to receive a briefing on at some stage. The second matter, Chairperson, is in the same vein as Honorable Mhlangu, is that, whilst we are dealing with all the issues here, there seems to be no good faith, quote unquote, from certain members of the SABC. Now, for example, the spokesperson of the SABC, I had the article last week and his exact quotes, but I didn't carry it today, where he said, this 80-20 and policy changes and all that, we're not going to change any of that. Doesn't matter who made that policy shift or recommended it, we are not going to change it. And I don't think that is good faith. And they need to be reminded that that is one of the issues that's falling within the purview of the recommendations that we are going to be making to Parliament. So I just think the SABC, whoever is there now, need to be told that please act in good faith, because we're certainly acting in good faith, and don't treat this committee with contempt. Let's come up with proposals and we can debate it later on with them. But for now, just hold your horses on making statements that would go directly against the grain of some of the recommendations that we may make, particularly in reference to the policy of local content, etc. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mukwena, followed by Chauke and Van Dam, and I'm hoping we'll close the matter there.
No, thanks, Chad. I'm largely covered. I just wanted to make a further recommendation that what we should then do is to recommend to the minister, who is the shareholder representative, to ask Mr. Aguma in particular and Mr. what's his name? The spokesperson, Khanyago, right? That they should explain themselves. Why they, when there is an inquiry that is in process, why do they go and make such terrible decisions on behalf of the SABC? Are they doing it with her permission? And if not, then they must explain, both to her and to Parliament, so that we have an understanding of what we're dealing with. And I think this is a process that cannot wait for the recommendations, because it's a process that will inform the recommendations. So I would strongly suggest that they must write to us before Friday and explain their actions. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Chauke, followed by Van Dam.
No, Chair, the point that is raised by Honorable Mhlangu, I think it's a very important point. And I think what we should do, Chair, in our approach will be to engage the day-to-day, oversight work of SABC is done by the Portfolio Committee of Communications. In fact, I want to support what Honorable Mukwena has proposed, but just to say that there's a need that we bring to the attention of the Portfolio Committee these issues. Because they're the ones, in fact, who will call the minister. They're the ones who will call the SABC. I mean, the issue of the SABC going to court, I think it was covered in the newspapers before. And the committee is supposed to have acted from that point. You'll have made a stop on that thing from that point. That's the power of the committee. So when the Portfolio Committee failed to discharge its duties, then it becomes a problem. Because we are now going to find ourselves having now to deal with the day-to-day running of SABC, and it's not our mandate. So I'm going to propose that, Chair, yourself as a chair of this ad hoc committee, you interact with the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, raise our concerns around these issues, and say that we are not happy about the following things. It's not only that, by the way. There are issues of contracts that are happening fraudulently in the SABC. As we speak now, there's information around fraudulent activities that are continuing happening. We'll be sharing that with the Portfolio Committee chairperson at some point. So I'm saying that we need to bring this to the attention of the Portfolio Committee and it must in fact call for accountability on this issue. So I think that's how we should do it, Chair. And we have to build a strong relationship between ourselves and the portfolio committee, because part of the recommendations that we're going to make have to be implemented by, overseen by that portfolio committee to make sure that those recommendations are implemented. So it's important that we start from now. I mean, the fact that the so-called executive at the SABC just undermined this process. It's a clear demonstration of we don't care. But I want to make it very clear that action will be taken. That time will come. We are committed to make sure that we're cleaning up SABC. We're going to help to clean it up. And those that are going to be found, at some point, we'll definitely have to call in the police to be arrested. There's no other way. We're not going to be played by people who think that they are in charge there. They can make statements, as Mr. Singh says, and we'll keep quiet. This parliament is not going to allow that thing to happen. In fact, that's why we are saying escalate it. If need be, we'll invite the entire portfolio.
Hi there.